Welcome to ThinkTech on OC16, Hawaii's weekly newscast on things that matter to tech. I'm Jay Fidell.
And I'm Fuke Oishi.
In today's show, we'll meet soft-spoken Jeff Peterson, a local musician from Maui who is taking Hawaiian music and his slack key guitar to the world, all made possible by the new technology that allows musicians to globally perform and disseminate their music.
We'll talk with Jeff, learn about the way slack key works and how it's achieving global popularity, and best of all, we'll hear him play some of his music.
This and much more to come on ThinkTech. Hawaiian music is a blend of so many cultural strains and influences, and some local musicians in our generation have not only incorporated those influences into their music, but are now again bringing the circle full turn, giving new and beautiful Hawaiian music back to the world.
Jeff Peterson is one of those musicians, serious, passionate, and a standout talent, sharing his gift with the world, making Hawaii that much more of a global place, more connected than ever before, thanks to Jeff, and also thanks to tech.
Whoa, profound, Duke. You're on a roll. Anyway, we were privileged to be able to interview Jeff in our studio. And here's what he said about the origins of his special music. It began in Maui. That was where you were inspired.
Definitely.
So tell us how you got into music.
Yeah, well, as I mentioned, my father was a paniolo, and he loved playing, just not professionally, but just for fun. So he would come home from work, and often he'd go just unwind. I'd hear his boots going through the old ranch house, clunk, clunk, clunk. Oh, Dad's home, all right. And he'd drive up in his Ford Bronco, and he'd go often just to unwind. He'd just play some music. And one of his favorite songs was Hawaiian Cowboy, and Na'ali'i is another one, and He Ono. Those are all the Hawaiian songs that have just plenty of words, tons and tons of words. And I think that's what I was thinking when I wrote the song for Sunny on the new CD with lots of lyrics. So he would play another very close friend of the family, Eddie Wilson, 6'8" tall Hawaiian cowboy. Always played music. He'd always come by the house, and we'd go on camping trips together. My dad was a really outdoors person, and I was lucky to grow up. Unlike today with computers, everyone's kind of stuck indoors a lot. It's hard to break away and get out. My entire childhood was just outside. I was very fortunate. So that still inspires a lot of my music now. And all the cowboys would get together and have kanikapila and just play for fun. So I was surrounded by it.
The paniolo.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. But like most kids, I would sit in and play with them and learn from them just by listening. Nothing, I never had a real teacher. I mainly learned by ear. But then I got into other styles of music, and like most kids, I wanted to be like a rock star and all.
Sure, you gotta go through that.
Right. But then I went and I kind of focused in. When I graduated from high school, I played all kinds of music, some Hawaiian music, a lot of, there was a guitarist named Joe Satriani, and he did this very kind of virtuosic electric guitar. So I did a lot of that, and Eddie Van Halen and all those guys. Steve Vai was another guy. But after high school, I had this amazing experience on Maui. This guitar player from Oahu, and I had no idea where she was from or who she was at the time. This guitar player came and did a classical concert on Maui, and it was just at the Wailuku Public Library in the little kids section. And I can't remember how I found out about it. I think my mom saw it in the paper or something. She told, after school you should go and listen. There's a classical guitarist playing, and I'd never heard a classical guitarist play. So I went to this, and I was just so incredibly blown away. I think I was just sitting on the floor. There were maybe 10 people there, and she played Bach, she played flamenco, she played new contemporary classical pieces. She played this full range of the full expression of the classical guitar. And I was just so blown away. I went up to her after, and it was just a very brief meeting. I introduced myself and said, I love playing guitar and I'm studying, but I've never heard this kind of music. Where did you go to school? I was starting to think about college. And her name is Lisa Smith. She said, I studied with Pepe Romero. He's one of the world's great guitarists, and he teaches at the University of Southern California. So that was my goal. Okay, I couldn't afford it. It's a very expensive school. but I signed up for every single scholarship I could find, and through like CAM schools, part Hawaiian, and all sorts of academic scholarships, anything I could think of. There's a USC alumni club. I flew over to Oahu and did an interview, and just as much as I could, and I got some grants, so I was able to go there. And that really transforms how I see music.
Jeff has been recognized as a great Hawaiian musician, and he's been able to travel and play his music in many venues with many great artists around the world. He told us how that happened.
There's so many different types of music, but in this day and age with technology and information being shared, the world is much smaller. I've done recordings where, with Debashish, he recorded in Calcutta. He sent me the wave file of the track, and then I studied it for about a month. I transcribed the whole thing. It's this very long piece that he played, this brilliant virtuosic piece, and I played a ukulele part to it, and I actually wrote out what he played and harmonized it, and instead of just improvising, I thought, okay, I'm going to really focus on this piece, and I could record here and then send it back to him. So
you're not wasting the technology, eh?
Yeah.
So let's talk about China now. You know, the part of ThinkTech is globalism. You are clearly a global person. You have emerged into globality.
That's a good word. I haven't heard that before.
So tell us about China.
Well, as I mentioned before, I have family heritage there, so it was really exciting to go and explore. I felt like a history detective. I was trying to find in Shanghai, my grandfather, who was born and raised there, has these old photos that he gave to me of his childhood and even the generation before him, right when photography started. These classic old pictures, and there are these photos of this college campus, and you can see the brick buildings like you'd see at an Ivy League school like Harvard, but then Chinese style roofs, you know, the traditional Chinese architecture.
Interesting.
And his family would travel outside of Shanghai to go treat people with penicillin and medicine they'd never been seen before, and so they traveled down rivers, and it was very fascinating, something I really wanted to connect with. So through the Shangri-La Hotel, I was able to organize a concert tour, and I invited Raitia Helm, Keola Beamer, Chino Montero, Steve Jones, and Capella Williams, a hula dancer, and Wanalani Beamer as well.
What a group.
What a group. It's an amazing group.
Yeah.
So we worked really hard, we developed the show, and each of the hotels staged a really big gala event with a huge dinner and elaborate decorations. They just went all out. I kept, going back and forth talking to the hotels. The hotel in Beijing wanted to recreate a whole beach inside the bar.
No.
And fortunately I talked him out of that.
Top.
Yeah, it was a little over the top, but I mean it still was that impressive.
Yeah.
One of the venues, Fuzhou, had 30-foot banners made of each artist, and they didn't tell us about it, so we walked into the ballroom and it was like, I don't know what we could do with them now, but each of us had, they sent them to us, so we could go to Aloha Tower and,
Hold them, make sure you keep them safe.
Yeah.
But the Shangri-La hotels, they're like that. I mean,
They're like that.
Top of the line. It's great
So,
that you have connection.
It was amazing how much energy they put into staging the shows, but then as far as the sound and the wiring and all the tech,
Yeah.
I called it the Wild East. And Keola Beamer actually coined a phrase called the Beijing sound check.
And you're on a continuum. You and music, you have a destiny together. So where are you on the continuum, and where is music in terms of global music? Where is that on the? And are you in the same place?
That's a great question. Yeah. I always think back to why I started playing music, and it had nothing to do, I never thought about what I need to do as a career. I just loved it. And I remember my mom would come down and say, looks like there's a south swell today. There's some good surf. Why don't you get out there and surf? Because I'd just be practicing. I was so focused on doing music. And I just did it purely out of love and just trying to better myself and understand it more.
Jeff is formally trained in music and can play many kinds of music on his many kinds of instruments. His favorite is Hawaiian slack key guitar, and he told us his feelings about that. Can you tell the people about your new albums?
Yeah. I have 2 new CDs. The first one came out in 2009. It's called Maui in My Mind, and it's solo guitar, slack key, and it won the Hoku Award for the best slack key recording.
Great.
Yeah, I was very excited about that.
I have that album.
Oh, you do?
Yes, I do.
Right,
Yes,
right.
I
Yeah,
do.
it's mainly original music and then some arrangements of traditional Hawaiian songs, but I did a lot of writing. And coming out of that, I was feeling very creative, so I kept writing and started writing a lot of vocal songs. And the newest project that I have, it came out just a few weeks ago. It's with Amy Hanai-Li'i, Ciro Pahinui, Dennis Kamakahi, Sonny Lim, Chino Montero, and Steve Jones, and myself, so it's a big group. And the idea of the
At
CD...
the same time, eh?
Yeah, there have been many compilation CDs featuring slack key guitar, but this CD is different. It's first of its kind in a way where it's a collaboration between all these artists, where we produced, arranged, composed, created music in the studio together as a group. And so it was a really wonderful experience. It's something I've wanted to do for years. I've been working with Amy for a number of years. So it really was the first time that we all played together. And I tried to challenge everybody by doing, like, as I mentioned, after doing the Maui in My Mind CD, I had this creative energy and I kept writing music. So I wrote thinking of different artists on the CD. Like, I wrote a song called Manoa with Chino in mind all the way, testing his falsetto, and it was just a really nice, kind of a contemporary Hawaiian song, and he has a really nice feel for that kind of music. So I presented that to him and then had him interpret it and add his ideas to it. I wrote a song for Sonny, because he wrote this piece called the Pauhana Slack Key, which is just this real fun, I think it's actually called the Pauhana Rag. It's this real fun slack key piece. It's definitely like ragtime and bluegrass. So I wrote this piece thinking of that, but then I wrote lyrics to it, and it's just a mouthful. It's called Anapu'upipa Alanui.
Oh, no.
And it's about this. I used to growing up in Maui, my father was a cowboy on the ranch, and we'd drive down from Ulupalakua. You could get to Makena and Kihei going through ranch land instead of driving all the way around through Kula, through Kahului, and looping around. There's this road, but it was bumpy, and so that's what that title refers to, that bumpy road.
Say it again.
It's called Anapu'u Pipa Alanui, and it's called Amy Hanai-Li'i and Slack Key Masters of Hawaii, and there are 16 songs on the recording. We recorded, I don't know, about 25 or so. It was really hard to narrow it down. 16 is a lot these days for CDs, but I just couldn't cut it down to the usual 12. There's just so much that was really fun and good. And it made, the first week it made the number 11 on the Billboard World Music Charts, and then last week it moved up to 10. So I've never had a CD that's actually made that high up on the Billboard charts.
Wow.
So yeah, that's exciting. The other one is called Maui in My Mind. This is the
that's
CD,
the one.
and this is where my family lives in Olinda, Maui, where the cover shot was done, and it's a huge source of musical inspiration for me. I'm here in the city. I've been living here for over 10 years now on Oahu, and I often get to go visit my family on Maui, and even when I'm not there, I'm still thinking about it. So there's a book that's called Maui in My Mind that my father was in when I was growing up. He's in the Paniolo section, and many great shots of him. One's at a branding, roping cattle, and then another one is just this beautiful shot of him in Waikamoi rainforest riding with the misty rain. There's this a song on here that's called Lily Noi. It's this white misty rain that falls above Makua and Olinda all the way towards the backside of the mountain towards Hana. And so a lot of the songs here were written from my experiences of growing up on Maui and the people I knew, the places I went.
For the full-length interview with Jeff Peterson, check out our site, thinktechhawaii.com. Jeff was nice enough to play some of the music on his Maui on My Mind album for us.
Well, I'd like to play a piece that's from my CD, Maui in My Mind, and this is written for a very dear friend of my family's, Eddie Wilson. I mentioned him earlier in the show. He was a wonderful Hawaiian cowboy who was one of my first mentors growing up. And the song is in a minor tuning. So just by playing the open strings, you hear a minor key. Most light key tunings traditionally are in major tunings, but I did a variation for this song, and it draws very closely on a melody called Wahine Hololio, and that's a song that has very old, ancient origins. It was a chant, and so I built that into more of a contemporary piece. It's called Paniolo Soul. So that was a piece, Paniolo Soul, and by changing one string, so I raised the pitch of the second string. Now I'm back in a major key, and this is one of the more common slide key tunings, and it is called Taro Patch. It's the nickname for it. It's open G. And what's interesting about this tuning, you'll find it in different parts of the world. There's actually a tuning from the 19th century that's called the Spanish tuning. It happens to be open G. So I wonder if there's some sort of connection with the Spanish and Mexican cowboys who came to Hawaii and brought guitars. Did they play in this open tuning? No one really knows. None of that music's really documented. But maybe the Hawaiians were introduced to this tuning back then, and then they made variations on their own. Or the other more, of course, famous Spanish tuning is just standard tuning, and it would sound like this. If you play the strings open, if I have to hold fingers down because I've changed the tuning, but it doesn't really make a nice chord. It's a little harsh in the ear. You'd have to hold down fingers to make the chord sound. So a lot of cultures around the world experimenting with changing the tunings to go from this, which is the basic tuning that most people would hear, to getting this now is tuned to a chord, so all of the notes are part of a G chord. So just by playing the open strings, you already have a very nice sound. And by lowering the bass strings, you can have these low pitches. And really the heartbeat of slack key is this motion, the alternate bass going back and forth. It's like the pulse or the rhythm of the song. So that was a song called Puamana. And what I'm doing the whole time, usually the bass line is there. Every now and then it might drop out for a note or so, but the idea is to keep that pulse there. Then my left hand is free to move up and down the strings. Types of rhythms that you could play. Sometimes you'll have, like I mentioned earlier in the program, one of the first Hawaiian songs that was made very famous was a waltz that almost sounds like it was a mariachi piece because it's actually its origins, it's an old Mexican folk song. And Makia Kealakai wrote the lyrics to the song Waialai. And so this is a little bit of a sense of that. You can hear a little bit of the Spanish and Mexican influence in the music.
It's more than just entertainment. Hawaii's music is valued as symbolic of our special culture and society. This can only be helpful to us in tourism, business, and in every other way, so Jeff's work as our emissary and agent is very important. We hope he'll continue that work and encourage other artists to do the same.
If you want to know more about Jeff Peterson, you can visit his website, jeffpetersonguitar.com, and you can get his music there and on Amazon. His most recent albums are Maui on My Mind and Slack Key Masters.
At its Plaza Club luncheon on November 18th, the Hawaii Venture Capital Association, HVCA, will present its Entrepreneur of the Year Awards. Tim Dick, original CEO of Hawaii Super Ferry and a venture capital partner with John Dean, has stepped in for John Dean and will be our luncheon speaker. You can register to attend the Entrepreneur of the Year program at hvca.org.
That's not the only tech program going on in the next few weeks. On December 16th, the state's Strategic Development Corporation, HSDC, is doing a symposium on best practices in state-supported entrepreneurial development programs. Say that 10 times fast. Namely from Ohio, Oklahoma, and Kansas. You can register to attend this program at enterprisehonolulu.com and hsdc-hawaii.org. Save the date for the 11th Annual Holiday Science and Tech Fair, Wednesday, December 29th, at the Japanese Cultural Center of Hawaii. Sponsored by HTDC, the High Tech Development Corporation. See you then. And now here's a ThinkTech commentary by Bill Spencer of Hawaii Oceanic Technology. Congratulations. You have succeeded in getting a 35-year lease from DLNR. That's quite something.
Thank you.
What does that mean for us? What does it mean for aquaculture?
As you may recall, last October in 2009, we were granted our Conservation District Use Permit.
I remember it well.
And that permit required an environmental impact statement, a cultural impact statement, and a tremendous amount of work. But it was the threshold permit that gave us the right to proceed with requesting release from the Department of Land and Natural Resource Land Division. So that took about another year, all told. We're very happy about this. This is big news. Essentially is the green light that will let us proceed. Really affords an incredible opportunity for Hawaii to be the leader in showing the world a better way to do fish farming. And the fact of the matter is, we have to do fish farming. There's really no choice. Already, farmed seafood makes a third of the world's total supply of seafood consumed. And the Food Agriculture Organization of the United Nations has essentially declared that if we don't double aquaculture output in the next 20 years, the world is going to be starving for seafood, and we're going to continue to deplete our oceans. We're going to be out of seafood in 30 years. Our children won't know what fresh seafood is about unless we do something about it. And why can't the United States be the leader in this area?
Why can't Hawaii be the leader in this area?
Absolutely.
We'll be right back to wrap up this week's edition of ThinkTech. But first, we want to thank our underwriters.
Thanks to the Scheidler Family Foundation. Jay Scheidler, through the Scheidler Family Foundation, is an active supporter of a number of educational, cultural, and charitable organizations, including ThinkTech.
Hawaiian Electric Company, HECO and its affiliates Miko on Maui and Helco on the Big Island, are deeply committed to supporting the communities they serve.
Galen Ho. Galen Ho is a senior executive of BAE Systems, a global defense, security, and aerospace company with a large commitment to Hawaii.
The High Tech Development Corporation, HTDC, is a state agency dedicated to developing Hawaii's high-tech industry, diversifying our economy, and providing quality jobs for our people.
That wraps up this week's edition of ThinkTech. Remember, you can watch ThinkTech on OC16 several times a week. And actually, some people do just that.
I do, because I like seeing myself on TV.
For additional times, check out OC16.tv.
For lots more ThinkTech videos, and for underwriting and sponsorship opportunities on ThinkTech, visit thinktechhawaii.com. It'd be great if you could help us reach Hawaii.
I'm Jay Fidell. Thanks for joining us on ThinkTech.
And I'm Duke Oishi. Aloha, everyone.